In the early days of World War I, aircraft were used for mapping. Pilots flew above the trenches strictly to photograph enemy positions and track troop movements from a safe distance. If two opposing planes crossed paths, the combat was clumsy. Pilots would pull out service pistols to take potshots at each other, or even try dropping bricks and grappling hooks onto the enemy plane below. To effectively shoot down an opponent with a machine gun, a pilot must point the nose of their aircraft directly at the target. The goal is to fly the plane as if the entire vehicle is the weapon. But there is a physical bottleneck in the way. The engine and the heavy wooden propeller occupy the front of the plane, the exact space the bullets need to travel through. Fire a gun from the cockpit, and you simply blow off your own blades. The military that could solve the geometry of shooting through a spinning propeller would possess a massive tactical advantage over the Western Front. Anthony Fokker, a Dutch engineer, built a solution using a lightweight scout aircraft. His monoplane was built around a frame of chrome molybdenum steel tubing, making it agile and easy to modify. A German pilot named Otto Parschau flew one of these early scouts, painted green, during the first year of the war. He operated the unarmed plane across both the Eastern and Western fronts. In May 1915, the Fokker factory took Parschau's plane back. They used his specific airframe as the testbed for a radical new forward-firing machine gun system. That single, hastily modified prototype ultimately changed the airplane from a passive flying camera into a dedicated, lethal weapon. The solution was the Stangensteuerung synchronization gear. In English, this means pushrod control, a mechanical system that bypassed the propeller problem entirely. The mechanics were straightforward. A large cam wheel linked the engine's rotation to the gun's trigger. As the wheel turns, it blocks the gun from firing for the exact fraction of a second a blade sweeps past. The bullets pass safely between spinning blades. After early versions that jammed frequently, this cam-driven system finally provided a reliable way to fire forward without destroying the aircraft. The synchronizer did more than add a gun to a plane. It turned the entire aircraft into an aimable weapon system. While effective, the Fokker Eindecker was notoriously difficult for its own pilots to handle. The fuel system was a constant burden. Pilots had to manually pump fuel from the main tank to a gravity tank up to 8 times every hour, even in the middle of a dogfight. The plane was also aerodynamically unstable. It lacked fixed tail surfaces, meaning its balanced elevators were hypersensitive to the slightest movement of the control stick. One German ace noted that a graph of the plane's altitude on a first solo flight looked like a jagged lightning bolt. Keeping the Eindecker in a straight line was a physical struggle. To be lethal in an Eindecker, a pilot had to manage an exhausting cognitive and physical load just to keep the aircraft in the air. When these newly armed monoplanes reached the front in 1915, they began easily shooting down Allied observation aircraft. Allied pilots were completely outmatched. They began calling themselves Fokker fodder during a period of heavy losses, known as the Fokker Scourge. This era created the first fighter races. Max Immelmann became a household name in Germany by rapidly accumulating confirmed aerial victories. Oswald Belke achieved even higher numbers, racking up 19 victories while flying the Eindecker, the highest score of any pilot in the type. The Eindecker's dominance proved a new military reality. An army could no longer operate effectively on the ground if it didn't first control the airspace above the battlefield. Technological leads in wartime are temporary. By early 1916, new Allied fighters like the French Nieuport 11 arrived to challenge German control. These new Allied aircraft were more stable and much more maneuverable than the finicky Eindeckers, quickly turning the tide of the air war. The secret was finally out in April 1916. A lost German pilot accidentally landed an intact Eindecker at a British airfield, giving the Allies a chance to inspect the synchronization gear for themselves. The speed of development during the war meant that the aircraft dictating the front lines in 1915 was rendered obsolete in less than a year. There was a dark irony in the Eindecker's core technology, which became clear during the final flight of Max Immelmann. In June 1916, Immelmann attacked a British plane, but his synchronization mechanism suddenly failed, firing 7 bullets directly into his own spinning propeller. The heavy wood splintered, and the resulting aerodynamic vibrations were so violent they completely shook the entire aircraft apart in midair. The pilot who pioneered modern aerial combat was killed by a failure in the very machine that made his career possible. The Fokker Scourge was a dangerous, often unreliable machine, but by fixing the gun to the axis of the engine, it established the basic mechanical arrangement for nearly every fighter that followed for the next 30 years.